Hello, and welcome to Movies We Dig, the podcast about film, antiquity, and everything in between. I'm Christy Vogler.
I'm Elijah Fleming.
And I'm Colin McCormick.
And tonight we are revisiting Pompeii, both as an impressive archaeological site and a less impressive 2014 epic historical romantic disaster film produced and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. The film stars Kit Harington, Carrie Ann Moss, Emily Browning, Adewale Akinwumi Agbaje, Jessica Lucas, Jared Harris, and Kiefer Sutherland. And here to help us delve deeper into this film and the destructive event it's based upon is self-proclaimed volcano nerd and fellow ancient history podcaster, Genn McMenemy.
Hi.
Hey.
As our listeners may remember, Genn is one of the hosts of Ancient History Fangirl, as well as a writer whose works include Women of Myth and recently released Official Lore Olympus Cookbook. Welcome to the show, Genn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I feel very like I just, shoehorned myself in. I saw you guys posting about this on Instagram and I was like, I have big thoughts about this movie.
Can't wait to hear these big thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, that was just on a whim. I sometimes it's like when I'm watching a movie for the first time, I'm like, let's have people join me on this journey. And I was very excited to see your message as I was going through it.
It's one of those things where I feel like it's like a terrible earworm where you want to inflict it on other people. Like, you shouldn't, but you're also like,
Yes.
ooh, it is a fiasco I want you to experience with me.
Yes.
Like mono.
I mean, maybe.
That feels like an apt description right now. Oh, man. What's really funny, and I will get us to our opening question, but what's really funny about this film is like, how sometimes you watch something and you're kind of upset because you're overthinking it instead of enjoying it. This was a film that I very much enjoyed getting to overthink because I was not going to sit there and be entertained by it otherwise.
I saw it in the cinema, in the movies, in 3D, and the 3D was very good. But my poor husband was sitting next to me, and I was like, "Well, no, that's not right. That's not right. That's not how volcanoes work." He's like, "Okay, you have to stop," because people, like the 7 people in the cinema, were like, "You really, you have to stop." I was like, "I'm fine. This is very hard. I'm going to erupt just like Pompeii."
Well, Genn, you kind of anticipated our opening question, which is not surprising. You've been on the show before, but yeah, what was your first experience watching, and do you dig it?
I mean, I love the idea of anything that kind of makes people think about the ancient world. And I do I'm not going to lie. I am one of those people who loves a good disaster film. Like, the cheesier, the better. If The Rock is going to save, Los Angeles or San Francisco from a giant, earthquake, give me more of it. But I guess for me, this was really difficult because I was like, this was such a fascinating eruption, and there's so much that we learn from this eruption because of the eyewitness documents and the relief effort afterwards that tell us about that time period, that to not see it done a bit better is just deeply depressing.
Yep.
In the history of volcanology, and I don't know a lot about it. I'm just a massive nerd who's read a lot. This is one of those things that the ash cloud is called a Plinian eruption because Pliny noted it first. And for a long time, that was the gold standard of what an eruption looked like until Krakatoa and other things were recorded more widely. So I'm just you had so many chances to tell a better story, and they didn't. And they're real people they could have based these characters on, and they chose. Anyway, yes. I don't want to look. I'm going to let everyone else talk first because I could go forever.
Yeah, Colin, Lige, do you guys kind of want to share once again, first impression, second impression?
Eli, you go for it first.
Okay. I think this was my 3rd time watching this movie, which seems ridiculous at this point because I had also forgotten so much of it. It was such a forgettable movie. I was like, what is happening now? But I think, Genn, you really hit on a lot of things that really upset me about this movie, which I do not dig at all, is that there's so much information that we have about Pompeii. The space is super important. We know the exact, layout of the city. We still have that amphitheater. It doesn't, or the arena that they're talking about, it doesn't fall away. We know so much. And like, yeah, the big Plinian ash cloud, we don't even get to see that shape. It doesn't even come to that. And I don't know, if we're focusing on all of these like plaster casts of the bodies and stuff, I really thought we were going to like meet those people when I was going into the movie of like, oh, we're going to see these characters. We're going to sort of see where they end up. And I think this needed to be so much more of a disaster movie than it is. It needed to focus on the volcano, and it didn't.
One of my notes was that this is a disaster movie where the actual disaster is like the C plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Like it's two other movies with a volcano in the background.
Yes, exactly. And I think I remember in our first go over this, what was it? It's not epic. It's not historical, it's not romantic, and it's not a disaster movie. It fails across the board on all of these things because it's trying to do too much, I think.
It's a disaster of a movie, which is a very different thing, you know?
Very different thing. I would have loved an actual ancient disaster movie. I think that would have been so interesting to see, you know, different levels of life and different types of people and how they interact specifically with the destruction and, you know, the process. Like what the first 18 hours of the eruption was just falling rocks. It's like things don't, you know, happen that quickly. Again, Jen, I think I could also keep going forever.
Yeah. And it's one of the things too, where we learned so much about like what happens to the body because of this. And like, just the idea that this, like, it's the end of the world. And it was a long time. And there were a lot of people who survived, and there were real people doing the relief effort that we have their stories. Like we know what Pliny the Elder did. Like, why are we not on the beach? Why are we not looking at like, sorry, Paul.
The framing device, like Kiefer's right there. Like this is like the root should have been, this is a prequel to 24, where it's like an 18-hour countdown, and every hour we follow Kiefer, and like, you know, every episode is like a new time slot window in the like 18-hour or however long it is sort of countdown.
This is perfect.
So I was thinking that, or White Lotus, where you start with like archaeologists finding excavating some of the remains, and then you go back and like each day leading, and then the 2 days of the eruption, so each day is leading up and you're trying to figure out who are those individuals, did other people escape, all of
kind
that.
Kind of a Rashomon style.
That would have been great.
There's a really good book. It came out, probably like a decade ago, maybe more, called The Night Villa I think it's by Carol Goodman, which is about the story of a villa in Pompeii that people are like digging up, and also like a woman like in modern time, her own story. And it's kind of about this servant girl, and did she make it out? What happened? Like, and you know the countdown, and you know what you found, but you don't know exactly what happened. And, you know, it also dealt with actual things that historians and archaeologists do. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so I literally just watched it for the first time like a few days ago, and was Instagram posting as I went, which made it a little more enjoyable and funny. And I was seeing so many versions of other movies present in this one, including like, I think I clipped a scene from George of the Jungle.
That is a classic, and I am very sad.
All the movies I thought you were going to reference, that was not. That would not.
The what's with chicks and horses scene.
Oh my god.
It fit, okay? The meet cute.
Yeah.
It fit that scene so well. And I think that I had like that moment when Hiccup meets Toothless and they're reaching out to like comp. I think that's also Jurassic Park a little bit too.
A little bit.
A little
I love
bit.
That the movie posits that the most romantic thing you can do is break a horse's neck with your bare hands right in front of his girl.
Yeah.
Fastest way to a girl's heart. A horse girl's heart. She's got to be a horse girl if you really want to make that one work.
I have questions about the physics of that. Like, I feel like,
is that possible?
Where are the horse girls?
No, Jenny is not on this call. If she was here, she would tell you.
Literally posted something about being a horse girl.
He did.
The way he does it, you would think he was like opening up a jar.
I would feel like you would need to do more of a chop or something. I don't know.
That's like a very thick muscle, and I think it'd be very difficult.
It's also like a really large vertebrae right there. Like that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, this stereotypical like, oh well, they're from Jon Snow, as I'm going to call him, because he's in his full Jon Snow phase.
Yes, absolutely.
It's from England, so the only thing we know about the ancient Britons is horses. I'm like, that's not exactly true. Also the type of warfare they would have done would have been different. And do we want to talk about what it would have looked like in the arena and why they fought in different styles because it was a way of subjugating people? Okay, I'm going to stop. But anyway, there's so many commentaries they could have made.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So like I said earlier, for me watching this, I was actually enjoying it as like this weird link between Gladiator 1 and Gladiator 2 and all of these depictions of gladiators and how it's changed over time. Like I haven't gotten a chance to talk much about it here, but like for Camus, I did a different talk that was looking at when the movies have the turn thumb and they like specifically are like turning the thumb down and how we can watch this timeline shift of it. That's fascinating because in the first Gladiator, when Maximus wins and the crowd is like saying, kill him or let him live, Commodus doesn't want to like listen to the audience, but he does. He gives the verdict that the audience wants. And then we start to see this shift over time. And I'll talk about the version that happens here, but like the most recent versions in Gladiator and Those About to Die is that the emperor disregards what the audience says, despite both fighters having put on an excellent performance. And they like disregard what the people want and use the military to kill the athlete. And I'm like, if that's not such an interesting commentary on how power relations between political leaders, entertainers as athletes, and the people, like that was just fascinating. This one was a really interesting transition piece I wasn't aware of, and I wish it had been there. The other thing I found fascinating is that I grew up in Washington State. So like there's this history that I grew up with learning about Mount St. Helens in the 1980 eruption. That was very present, but it was also like my entire like soccer field was made from the ash of Mount St. Helens that had fallen. It's like where the town of Yakima had put all of the ash into one spot and they put soccer fields on top. You can go to little knickknack shops and you'll find like angel statues made of Mount St. Helens ash. And I've excavated at a mammoth dig through Mount St. Helens ash. So like you could tell exactly when you went through 1980. And so it was really interesting to think of a volcanic eruption disaster and how people react to that. And our questions of, is this realistic? What's happening in this movie? What are people actually doing? So like, it was fun to experience.
Well, everybody in the movie, the whole like town of Pompeii makes the like brilliant strategic decision to just teleport out of the city at a certain point where you just have like screaming masses of people and then everybody gets the memo and then they just disappear. And then so for the back like 10 minutes of the movie, there was nobody in the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is interesting because like that's almost accurate to an extent that like a lot of people were able to evacuate.
Yeah, I guess they just sped up the timeline.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, a lot of people did evacuate, and depending on the route you took is where different bodies were found. Like weirdly, I think, and I could be wrong, I did the research for this a few years ago. It was like something like if you went closer to the volcano on one side, you were fine, which is not the way you'd think to go. But that was a safe way. But if you went other ways, you would have wound up either crushed at one of the gates, had like a lot of people like trampling each other, as you mentioned. The beaches were almost impassable because of the waves. I don't remember a tsunami. But,
was the very little evidence that there was as large a tsunami that would carry an entire ship down like through the street, which is something that I completely forgot happened.
Oh, yeah. When I saw that, I was just like, what? No, that's not even how tsunamis work. Like the earthquake would have had to be,
the water.
No. Anyway, you would have had more of a chance of one going across like the bay to, what was it, like Capri or something. Anyway.
There's something like 2,000 or so bodies, I think, found at Pompeii, give or take. And the size of the city, I think I heard somewhere like maybe would have been like 20,000-ish people or something like that. So
yeah, a lot of people did get away. They left earlier. The people who wound up having, staying behind, a lot of them that were found, particularly in the city, there were reasons they didn't leave. There's like it's a really great exhibit that I saw a few years ago at the British Museum where it's an entire family died, and it's because one of the members was pregnant. So they chose to stay behind, hoping that it would get better, and obviously it didn't. There's a lot of stories in those bodies. And what disappointed me with this movie was there were so many they could have told about people who actually had lived. who are still here.
Yeah. Well, and like that part of it also, the one thing I always remembered is there's an official Mount St. Helens Day in Washington State. So it was always covered in our history classes as I grew up. And we always watched the same documentary video. And the one thing I always remember is this old man who lived by himself with all his cats in the cabin, and he refused to leave. And he was like, I don't know if he was in the red zone and I think he was in what was known as the yellow zone, which was like, there's a chance things could reach this far, but so that he wasn't forced to leave. So he stayed behind with all his cats. And I still love that man for that, but also.
Well, it's like the dog that was tied up. That
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you do that to that dog? Like, let it go.
So sad.
That was a question I also wanted to touch on with everyone. It's like, what is your actual experience with Pompeii, the city? Or Colin wants to bring in a point first. So
I haven't done my dig question yet.
Oh, sorry.
do it.
It's okay. You just skip right over me. It's no big deal. I won't file that away and grievances. Yeah. But no, I was going to say, I actually unequivocally and unironically dig this movie. And I just want to be really upfront. This isn't a bit I came up with this morning to stick to, but this is like, I love this movie. I think it makes like the genius galaxy brain move to just like, why reinvent the wheel? Let's just take Gladiator, all the stuff you love there. We'll do it just slightly on the cheap. We'll do, just kind of do the same thing, almost like in some cases shot for shot. Titanic, right? Everybody loved that. They made $1 billion. We'll just do that again, right? Poor boy, rich girl, arranged marriage, that whole thing. Set it against a disaster. It's like printing money. Although this movie maybe made $120 million against a like probably $100 million budget. So yeah, I think this movie is one of the greats. Everybody's sleeping on it. Undisputed masterpiece.
Get Out.
Special effects were cool.
Listen, the 3D was really good. I'm not going to lie. It was one of those 3Ds where like when people are getting covered in like ash and stuff, it all just flew at you. It was the golden age of good 3D. And right. I don't know how, it doesn't quite translate when you're not watching it in 3D.
I mean, skipping to the end, that is the most epic kiss I've ever seen in film.
I don't know. I made this maybe uncouth, but I made a note that like I would actually turn around, and even though I've already given this movie 5 stars, I would actually give this movie 5 stars if just right at the end when they say like, I don't want to die running or whatever the line is, if they just took off their clothes and went at it like right then and there.
I kind of think they should have, frankly, at that point.
That would have been just the boldest move.
I mean, they literally sacrificed everything else at that point. It's just like...
Well, I mean, that maybe, I don't know if we want to start. No, we'll put a pin in that about the way this movie ends and why it ends the way it does. But sorry, Christy, you wanted to talk about Pompeii. Yeah,
so I was kind of curious, like, what is everyone's experience with Pompeii, the site or the archaeological material before, like, because I want this to be an archaeology episode as well.
So I am really lucky I got to go see Pompeii for my 30th birthday. Like I was living in the UK at the time and that was like my big present. And I have just I'm one of those people who gets weirdly fascinated by like, well, mythology, but also like natural disasters and the relation of mythology to natural disasters to explain things we don't understand. Like, yeah. All my OCDs on display with that. But anyway, so I got to see it and I'd already known a lot about the site just from me kind of falling down that rabbit hole of like, ooh, what happened and how would that have worked? But walking those streets and just seeing the actual site is incredible. And I really encourage people, if you get the opportunity to do that. If you don't, there's a great traveling exhibit that's going around that reconstructs one of the villas and has all the graffiti from the walls and like furniture from the rooms and stuff, and even some of the like frescoes that were like found and or mosaics. I always get them wrong. And it tells the story room by room of the people who lived there. So yeah, Pompeii is where my volcano nerd like obsession comes from.
Awesome. Yeah, I went to Pompeii as a college student, as an undergrad. I was digging in the summer and I went earlier to hang out in Rome with one of my friends, and we traveled around and decided, hey, let's go to Pompeii. So I was a little baby nerd at the time, and I absolutely want to go back because I think I would see it in such a different light, because I've seen all of these things that I think I did not fully understand, or I couldn't point out, things that I really, really needed to see. And we couldn't, see the whole city in the short time that we had.
Yeah.
But I also remember taking at least 2 classes from Brenda Longfellow, who was on Christie's committee.
Yep.
And it was like some of the most intense art history, archaeology courses I had taken at that point as an undergrad and then as a master's student. And it was so awesome. And there's so much information that we have from Pompeii. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
And it's one of the coolest things that exists archaeologically. It's just baller. And yeah, I would totally agree if you have the chance to see any exhibit or go, even if it's for like an afternoon, it is incredibly worth it. It's kind of wild that it's still here. I've gotten to talk to some of our friends who have excavated there, who've worked there in the summer, and they, have a lot of crazy stories about just, working in a very heavily tourist trafficked area, a site with a lot of excavation history and baggage, but also just an absolutely insane amount of material. We know so much. We have so much. And that's so fucking cool.
Yeah. Which is remarkable too on the sense of it's basically maybe one of the longest continuously excavated sites. I mean, like
It
unofficially
certainly
people
might be, yeah.
people have been looting it basically since antiquity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Herculaneum technically was discovered first, though, and has a slightly longer history, but not much.
But even still, new stuff gets excavated somewhat regularly.
Stuff gets recovered from Nazi families and brought back.
But it was only like 2022 where they changed the date of the eruption, right? Like in the past 2 years, they have said we now think that the eruption happened in October and not August because of new information that has been coming out. Because of
with like plants or something, like certain things they finding that like wouldn't have been in season.
Yep.
Things
that were dried,
pomegranates,
versus
and kinds of things that don't bloom until this certain time of year.
Yeah. So it's like we're still learning so much from the site that has been like undergoing scientific excavation for a huge chunk of its life, and then very non-scientific excavation for another huge chunk of it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Colin?
Similarly, I've been to Pompeii exactly once, and Herculaneum as well. I have a story sort of about Herculaneum that I can tell at the back end about a house that I feel ire and resentment towards. But if one could hate a place, there's a couple of places that I hate in the world, and this is one of them. But yeah, I've been to Italy several times, but I've only been to Pompeii and Herculaneum once. It is remarkable. Like Eli kind of touched on, it's fascinating, both because it's so unusual for an ancient site, in an ancient context, that so much information is compounding, where everything is literally snapshotted in a way that almost never happens. Like so much of what we know about the Roman world is based on Pompeii, sometimes with this like warping effect. Like everything we think about like interior decorating is like based on this one window, this one sort of snapshot. And we always have to check ourselves and be like, is this a Roman thing or is this a Pompeii 79 AD thing?
Yep.
And on top of that, you got plenty eyewitness testimony. Like there's so many kind of things that it's this kind of gold mine. So the site's very cool. I also like doubly Herculaneum, especially just in terms of like Pompeii is also like doubly fascinating as like the meta history of archaeology as a practice. Pompeii is like ground zero for how the field has evolved, archaeology's relationship with like local governments and other and corruption
and other organizations.
And then Herculaneum, you also have this like sort of foil to it where I remember the professor telling us when we visited about how Herculaneum is like 1/10 the size, and was excavated later in a sort of different fashion. And that sort of is absolutely reflected in like the way the sites look and are presented today, what is preserved, how it sort of looks. Herculaneum is amazing, right? You can like go inside houses and like for better or worse. So yeah, Pompeii. I'm not an archaeologist by training or trade, but it is sort of, as cliche as it is worth checking out.
Oh, I want to go back again.
Same.
I just,
Yeah.
It sounds like I might have been the one who visited most recently.
You are, certainly, Christy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went just 20 minutes ago. Come on.
Yeah, I was taken away.
Pompeii lives in all of our hearts. So.
Yeah, I visited in 2022.
You did go recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing. I spent like one entire day just in Pompeii, and I still didn't see everything. And it's like, for people who are going to visit for the first time, heads up, certain parts of the neighborhood open up at different parts of the day for you to walk in and visit. So like, know that schedule, because if you start in the part of the city that isn't open yet, you probably won't get back to it within that day. So heads up on that. Hard lesson I learned. But then I did something else. I actually walked a kilometer away to the Villa Regina and got to see a rustic villa that was also preserved. And that was really cool to see, like, kind of this difference of what it was like in the city versus like what it looked like in the countryside that was still impacted by the same event. And then, yeah, I've also seen the traveling exhibit in St. Louis. This was before I went to Pompeii. I got to see the dog. That's pretty famous. Amazing experience, like everyone has said. I guess I would just add that I think one thing that people forget about why Pompeii is such a big deal, besides like the long storied history of the excavations, is that all of these guys from Europe, these white guys, were going there and giggling at the pornographic imagery.
Oh yeah, it was a filthy city. Like,
I mean, we should give ourselves a pat on the back for making it 28 minutes before we mentioned the Lupinar.
You guys never mentioned it in the episode. I'm like, you guys are missing the best part of the city.
For listeners in the know, Pompeii was famously a like resort town of sorts that people would go to for carnal pleasures, and there's a bunch of places like this in the Bay of Naples, but famously there is a brothel that is preserved with the frescoes, the wall paintings of, I guess, like the offerings still on display.
Yeah, so there's a great book by Sarah Levin Richardson about the brothel in Pompeii. And then I think Wolf Den is also based off of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you haven't read Elodie Harper's Wolf Den, the first book, it takes place just before Pompeii and then after Pompeii. It's a trilogy. It's great. It's a really wonderful series. She's such a great writer. I'm not saying that just because she's a friend, but she's amazing. And it just really made me think about what life would have been like in that brothel and for sex workers at that time. And sort of the long tail of that form of like slavery when and if you are able to achieve what is it, manumission? Is that what I want to say? And how you are still tied to the person who enslaved you before and what that looks like. So yeah, it's a great trilogy. And yeah, I encourage you to read it. But yeah, we did make it a long time. I mean, I did mention the graffiti. The graffiti is filthy in Pompeii, and I love it. They found all this graffiti that's like, this guy has a big dong, or like, or dick. I mean,
so and so over here.
Exactly.
So and so sucked off so and so. There's a lot of that kind of stuff.
So at the time when all of these things were being collected, this was before museums were necessarily a big thing, because you started with cabinets of curiosities. But when a museum started to develop, they created these cabinet of curiosities, but they were like for these profane or not profane. No, I guess profane works, right? Slutty objects. I don't know.
Slutty objects. I love that.
You were like trying to keep it distinguished in profession, then you just went straight to slutty.
So at the Archaeological Museum in Naples, it's called the Gabinetto Segreto. And it's the best room at that museum. Go straight for that one.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm definitely going to have to do that now.
And like a few different museums who had these collections from Herculaneum, Pompeii, and some other villas, they all had these like secret rooms at the British Museum. It was called the Museum Secretum. And here's a fun fact. In 1864, Webster's Dictionary defined pornography as licentious painting employed to decorate the walls of rooms sacred to bacchanalian orgies, examples of which exist in Pompeii.
Incredible.
I like the implication of this that like 19th century Europeans had like never heard of sex until they like discovered it on a wall painting in Pompeii, or like, what is this act?
Just eyes wide shutting the entire like luminar. Like, what is this?
Like they've never heard of pornography or like prostitution or sex work or anything in their lives before, and they're like discovering it for the first time from like a fucking first century excavation.
Well, only the British. Everyone else knew.
Oh God, yeah, everybody else.
Everyone was doing it. The Vatican has a room of penises, if we have all forgotten that.
Of course it does. I mean, we did an entire Patreon episode about like dildos in the ancient world, essentially, and what they were made of, what the earliest one was, where we see them in ancient writing. Like, for as long as people have been peopling, people have been f***ing, and they've been making images and everything else. Yep. I'm just going to say this right now. Do not make a red dildo. That is all.
Oh,
yeah, okay. No, that doesn't sound like a good idea.
I was just going to say, though, Colin's rewrite of the ending feels so much more appropriate with this in mind, though.
Very true.
Well, yeah. Also, because, like, Christy, you kind of said, this is a great movie where if you, like, pause and stop and think about, like, any one thing that's happening, it kind of, what are they doing? Like, what, like, why is this happening? And, like, one of the things about that, as I wrote in my notes, I'm like, is Kit Harington a virgin in this movie? Because, like...
This was the time period where he was just perpetually a virgin and whatever.
Well, not the actor. I mean,
no, but the characters he played were perpetually virgins. It's like, I've never had sex before.
Yes, Jon Snow. I mean, we like canonically know when Jon Snow loses his virginity. Do. But like this character, like when would he have had sex with a woman, I should say. But yeah, like this is his first kiss, presumably.
Yeah, because there's that scene pulled from Spartacus, the Stars series Spartacus, of him being like affronted that they are being presented at a villa for the enjoyment of the women to be looked at and possibly bid upon.
And it's just like that's the like, Christy, I'm just going back to your point. It's just so interesting to see how that depiction changed, right? You get Gladiator, then you got the interstitial of like Spartacus, which was just like, let us just represent everything that happened and make it as wild and camp and queer and fun as possible, because most people aren't watching, but they should be, right? And some of it's even historically accurate. Like, surprise. You know?
When they got something right, I'm like, oh.
In 2014, where are we at with the Spartacus Stars series? Are we
just ended?
I think it just ended, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was like right before, like 2013 was.
2013 was the final season.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because that also this feels in many ways like I am almost wondering like, are they reusing sets? Like the whole house scene.
Oh yeah,
where they take the gladiators and put them on display. I'm like, I'm watching a PG version of a scene from Spartacus.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of what, to me, didn't work about the movie. It's like either go whole hog or don't. And I know, and I know how that sounded, but I just feel like either you're going to go there or you're not. And what the Stars Spartacus did well is, they didn't sugarcoat anything. They were not making something for children and families to watch together. And I encourage you not to watch it with family members.
Nope.
Probably for the best not to. But this was very much in the vein of, I want this to be a fun summer blockbuster. Therefore, Jon Snow, who is definitely in his mid-20s, has to be a virgin. And this girl also has to be a virgin. But she's not 14, which does not canonically make sense if you're thinking about what would have actually been the marriage age of an upper-class woman in ancient Rome. They did get the senator's age right, though, which is disgusting.
I have another non-historical question, but an actor question. Because the main thing that I kept coming back to over and over and over again as I'm watching this is, how tall is Kit Harington?
He's kind of short. I don't think he's that tall.
He's a short king.
Google says he's 5'8", which I'm just going to call up front bullshit. Nobody in Hollywood is 5'8". That is the one height. If you say you're 5'8", you are not 5'8". If you are 5'8", you don't say you're 5'8". You're 5'10". Like that's so. I was like, and this is a great exercise, and you can do this with Game of Thrones too, of just like watching him stand next to different characters, because like. Google is telling me that Adewale Agbaje, he's 6'2" IRL. So seeing him next to Jon Snow is like, how tall are these? The evil guy, Proculus, in real life, that guy is 6'5".
What? Damn.
Yeah, as I call him, evil Luigi Mangione.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
I love how he's the evil one, but yes.
He's from, did anyone watch Grimm?
Yes.
No.
Maybe.
He's the like police chief in Grimm who like starts off as a villain, and then like in the later seasons he kind of becomes like a sort of on again off again ally. Anyways, Sasha Royce, I think is the actor's name. But I got so hung up on like trying to figure out like how tall is Kit Harington, and like am I watching a 5'6" gentleman?
Basically, he king energy, like or short king energy. That's what he gives for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So my question, Jen, and maybe anyone else, because I should know the answer to this, but I don't. How weird is it that Cassia, as an unwed woman, went to Rome by herself without her parents?
Stupid, ridiculous,
and then came back?
Would not have. I mean, she would have gone chaperoned, I guess, but
like to a family friend,
like a close family, like a family member, right? Like her aunt, maybe.
You presumably she would need like a tutor or some kind of
some kind of high-ranking servant, maybe, or with I don't know. It just seems like that doesn't make sense to me. Like that.
We should back up and just because we're almost 40 minutes in, I feel like we should probably we should get started on the plot.
We're giving the listeners as much attention as I believe was paid to the plot when writing this movie.
100%.
What are you talking about? This was like James Cameron level meticulous detail where like James Cameron, like he knew what they served every day on the Titanic. He knew the name of every single.
Listen, I have rewatched Titanic and that movie still holds up weirdly.
It's great. And like one of the things that makes Titanic so great is the director was a real fucking nerd for Titanic shit and knew all of the place settings would have looked like when the ship went down. Like
I just love his commentary on Ocean Gate these days.
Oh yeah, it's so fascinating. He's like, maybe you don't go down to the bottom of the ocean. But anyway, yes, let's back up.
Let's back up. The one easiest change I think you could have made is that just have Cassia have been married in Rome and her husband died and she's going back to her father's house.
Yeah.
I propose that at the end of this episode that we actually can just go through like point by point and be like, this is the easy, like 10-degree shift we could have made to the plot that would have like vastly improved things.
That's fair.
Yeah.
With that being said, who wants to try and give a quick plot summary like we do?
Ooh, I can try. Okay.
Give it to us, Laj.
Okay. Baby Kit Harington watches his parents get slaughtered by Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes.
Or Jack Bauer.
One of the Lost Boys.
It's a genocide. It's a vampire genocide. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not okay, but we're not going to touch on that history at all.
We'll get there.
I know. Mom fights. I appreciate that. She's fighting too.
Mom does fight. Yes. Becomes a slave gladiator. Is considered good enough to go somewhere more high profile to fight. Is sold or just take it, or like I couldn't really tell. Like there wasn't a whole lot of great exposition about like who, if he was purchasing him or if he like the guy. What was his Gricus? Is that the guy's name?
Gricus and Bellator are the
two.
I know all the characters' names.
Naturally.
That's why it's Colin's favorite movie right now.
Like as I said, this is my favorite movie. It's the best movie ever made. Paul Thomas Anderson should move over because Paul W.S. Anderson is going to take that throne out from under him.
Okay, we keep sidetracking.
We keep distracting.
Okay,
we're not. This is all within minute 10 of the film. Like,
absolutely.
Minute 10 in the very last scene, and that's it.
On a chain gang march to Pompeii from somewhere,
Londinium.
Well, yeah, but like presumably a ship, I assume. But
why would there be a ship?
Walked.
I don't know.
I mean, England is famously connected to the rest of continental Europe. There is no need for ships.
They just took the channel. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is. Sidetracked by a fancy girl in carriage whose horse falls in a hole and breaks a leg. It's never like super clear what happens to the horse.
I just wrote horse down.
Horse down. Meet cute of our couple, Emily Browning, who's actually gorgeous. Like I just want to stare at her. She's very pretty, but she doesn't do very much in this movie.
She holds the horse.
She does hold the horse, and then Kit Harington snaps its neck because it was hurt. And he is a horse guy because his family and his people were horse people. as we are
know
told.
this because they were called the horse tribes.
Yeah. This is how we know this. Moving into Pompeii, there's a festival, and Cassia, that's her name. Emily Browning's character is Cassia, and her, I assume, slave.
Yes.
Run off and enjoy some festivities and eventually go out to her parents' villa, which is not inside the city walls. Right?
It's on the coast.
Yeah.
It's
next to Badiatus's Ludus from Spartacus. It's
It's
on the same
It's that
cliff.
giant cliff that is canonical.
Everybody
Love
the name
to live.
10,000 foot cliff that leads directly to Mordor.
I have like space like underlined and circled in my notes because I don't know where anybody is or how long it takes to get anywhere. But suddenly people arrive at places. I don't even know what happens next.
Okay,
Somebody pick
Corvus
it up
shows
from
up.
here. Corvus shows
Cassia's father is trying to get Corvus to invest in the city, or the emperor to
Corvus
invest
is
in the
a
city.
Roman senator who also coincidentally massacred Kit Harington's tribe.
Yes.
He is here on behalf of the Emperor Titus to make a business proposition deal to, I guess, like build Pompeii Disneyland.
But Titus
That sounds
wasn't
right.
the emperor during the eruption, was he? Or maybe he just
Yes.
He
took over.
was.
He
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
become
he-
emperor,
he-
yeah.
He
In
just-
his 2 years, he got
Yeah.
a Hurricane Katrina, and that was about it.
He did, yeah. I was like, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, we should talk about Titus, but Corvus is there. He's really there, I guess, to marry Emily Browning, who had been in Rome.
Running away from him.
Yeah, and running away from him.
Hashtag relatable.
Yeah.
Hashtag Kiefer gives some weird energy in this film.
So weird.
There's something weird going on with his face. Maybe it's like dentures, Botox. Something.
Botox is drifting.
Yeah. So yeah, he's there. Cassia falls in love. They almost escape on a horse, but then go back. They run away for inexplicable reasons on a horse together, and then come back for equally inexplicable reasons.
That makes no sense.
That's when I was
Yes.
like, okay, this has gone off the rails officially. Like, I don't
Yes.
know what's
That
happening.
decision
And-
makes no sense.
So
At
now
all.
Kiefer Sutherland sees Kit Harington as a sexual rival to Emily Browning.
We just got to say this again, Virgin Jon Snow, because it's
Yes.
very clear he's never been around a woman. He's got these weird Christian morals for a country and a religion that aren't really in that country, would not have been their religion, and also like a religion that what are we talking, 79 AD isn't really a religion worldwide yet.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. He's like, oh, I've never been asked to do that. I've never kissed a girl before.
Right. So basically, in order to marry Emily Browning, Kiefer Sutherland conspires to host these games, basically blackmails and extorts her family to let him marry her, and then in doing so, orchestrates these games in order to murder Kit Harington in the Gladiator games. But while this all happens, Mount Vesuvius erupts, and they fight. They run away, and everybody's killed by the volcano.
Time out. They run away via chariot race /
Yes.
chariot pursuit.
Yes, through
Yep.
the streets of Pompeii. And then Kit Harington, after they defeat Kiefer Sutherland, Kit Harington and Emily Browning basically say, we can't escape the volcano, so we kiss.
The end.
That's it. Yeah.
Our rewrite is, so we but we did not.
Absolutely.
I mean, all right. So I guess it is inevitable, or not inevitable. It is unavoidable. I feel like you can't talk about this movie without talking about Titanic and
Yeah.
the things that Titanic gets right about this ill-fated tragic love story set against a backdrop of disaster. And the whole point of Titanic, or one of the points, is that Rose has this her experience on those 4 days on the boat or whatever with Leo were this awakening. It was a coming of age for her in all these different ways, and then laid the groundwork for her to go on and live a long and fruitful life that she then reflects back upon, before throwing the diamond into the ocean or whatever. There's a framing device, but I guess what I'm getting at is having everybody die at the end of the movie in the volcano renders the entire plot null and void, and there's no larger implications outside of what happens in this story. Whereas
Yep.
It
Titanic,
is slightly nihilistic.
yes, it's
Okay, yeah. I have written down what is the point.
like the thing with Titanic that's slightly different is it's like a locked room mystery, right? Like the only way you can get out of this is to get off the boat. But if you get off the boat, you're going to be in the ice cold water unless you make it onto a lifeboat. So you kind of know like the danger is outside you, but inescapable. Whereas like in this movie, you can see the volcano erupting. Maybe just walk in the other direction. Like don't race a chariot, through the streets.
This is why that whole horse scene is like Chrissy said, this is where it all goes off the rails. But like the entire horse escape scene is kind of this microcosm of everything wrong with like the weird plot contrivances. Because like, okay, the horses are panicking because the volcano. Okay. Jon Snow, Emily Browning has seen that Jon Snow is good with horses because he murdered one with his bare hands in front of her eyes.
Short king, we don't approve.
Could no one else kill? I thought he was going to be like he heals the horse using his like Celtic horse magic or whatever that he knows, right? Like that seems like the logical step.
I think you watched too much Game of Thrones there, Colin.
Yeah.
No, but like it seems like such an obvious setup that like, oh, he recognizes like, oh, this horse has this problem. I know this fix because I have special knowledge from my family's experience.
Colin,
but no,
you're forgetting the main rule of Jon Snow. He knows nothing.
True. But it's like he just kills the horse, but like anyone else could have killed. I mean, maybe not that way, but like anyone else could have just killed if the solution was to kill the horse. But anyway, so she calls him in to calm down the horse. He calms down the horse. Great. Then he like gets on the horse and she's like, get off the horse because if they see you on the horse, it's going to be bad news. And then instead he's like, come ride with me. And they ride away from the villa together. And then they get like, I guess a couple miles outside of Pompeii. And then he's like, we have to go back. And then it's
like why?
Yeah.
What?
Your chastity is at stake here.
My chastity is Jon Snow.
And she even says like, it's like, hey, like you could just like take the horse and like make a run for it, which like makes sense. And then there's this whole thing where he's like, no, it's my fault. I should take the fall for it. And I'm like, why? Like she'll be fine.
She will be fine. She can literally walk like 3 miles back to her house in her town where she grew up. Like she can just
why does he have to go back and like martyr himself for this girl?
It makes no sense. Also, like they wouldn't have like left in the first place, right? Like,
why did they run away at all to begin with? Like it's all
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
because
like,
all of the thoughts that he has, like, oh my god, they're going to be really freaked out that you are alone with me. And she's like, I'll tell him I wanted to. Like, obviously that's not going to work. Like, this was still a problem when you got on the horse.
It was all, I mean, you can see just the contrivances piling up, or like you're looking at the script and you're like, we need him to be at the mercy of Kiefer Sutherland so she can agree to marry Kiefer to spare his life. And so we're gonna like reverse engineer everything backwards from that situation. And then you end up with people making decisions that are like, what?
Like a smarter version of this script is she's been married to Kiefer Sutherland. They've maybe boned once. It was awful. He's been away to war. Now he's back. He wants to be like head of the household. And she's like,
twice her age.
Twice her age. She's like, I would rather die, much like Rose feels at the beginning of Titanic, than be with his asshat. And then she meets Jon Snow. And then he rocks her world, but obviously he knows nothing, so it doesn't happen. But anyway, then she meets Jon Snow. She dances her Irish jig. I mean, they ride on a horse, and then they survive the volcano. At least one of them does.
Yeah, he needs to survive the volcano to tell the story.
At least one person needs to survive the motherfucking volcano because, like...
The thing is, this would have been a great time for them to live because the refugee crisis post the eruption of Vesuvius would have given him, as an enslaved person, probably nobody would have known who his owner was. They died. They've been separated. He would have been free and she would have been free and they could have just lived their lives and it would have been fine. It would have been a great happy ending, unlike Titanic.
Yeah, there's a runway for a happy ending right there and the movie chooses not to take it.
Yep.
So strangely enough, too, this is going to go back to the Pollice Verso scene that I thought was really interesting. And I'm kind of mad now that I didn't know about it to put in my paper, because I would almost think that had this story been focused on Cassia as a character and having survived the whole event, I think it would have been a really good movie, and Fox News would call it woke today, because this scene I really like her because, again, the question of going to Rome by herself is like, you can make a really slight change for that to make sense and for her to still be as young as she is. So in that scene, the crowd, okay, first of all, common gladiator problem. No movie about gladiators ever shows a gladiator fight. They show an elaborate execution.
Yes.
Of which gladiators would not be a part of. It would be soldiers and criminals. So,
And we're also just doing, we're literally, sorry,
go for it.
In terms of like the cinema thing of like, we get a panning shot, like a bird's eye view panning shot over Pompeii into the arena, where the first thing we see in the arena are like chariots circling around, which is like the exact same fucking shot from Gladiator, but like 14 years later and like crappier. And we get the exact same setup where we're recreating a historical battle of like Romans versus barbarians, but it's really a setup to just max execute these people. All things that Gladiator did. And like, you can come for the historical, inaccuracies or whatever in that movie, but like Gladiator did 14 years ago and executed much better. And this movie is doing the exact same thing, even to the point where you get him like riding around on a horse and everybody's going nuts. It's just like, this movie is so good because it just has no original ideas.
Well, I take that back because this is an original idea. All right. So the only two survivors at this point are Milo, aka Jon Snow, aka Kit Harington, and Atticus, which I think we should also talk about at some point. Yeah. And the crowd is like, wow, that was awesome. Live, live, live. And Kiefer Sutherland, Corvus, is pissed. And you can see he's about to throw the bad thumb, whatever that is. And he is interrupted by Cassia, who gives it the thumbs up. And so that was really interesting. I don't think that would actually fly in that situation because only one person can give the official order. Usually it's the emperor or who's ever in charge of ceremonies. But it throws out this line. She says, if you kill him here on the point of 100 Roman arrows, because again, it set up all the archers about to murder these guys. It's not like a gladiator finishing off another gladiator. You make him a martyr to the mob. And then she adds, and I thought this was really cool, and if you reverse this decision, my decision, how will it be spoken of in Rome? They will whisper it behind your back that you have a wife that does not obey your will. Can your reputation bear such a weakness? And I'm like, that's such a good line. That is so true. Like she has used what power, her role as a potential wife, to undermine him. And he can't do anything about it. And he is pissed off. And he's like, I will break you eventually. Like there is going to be repercussions for this. But like, that was a good scene. That was a good
And that's
thought.
What's so disappointing is there are so many moments where this movie could have been so good. And that's just like such a good example because you're coming off the back of the Stars Spartacus, which we talk about, where they really do look at what the roles of people, both women and men, would have been in the ancient world, like how you might have found yourself enslaved in a ludus, or how you might have found yourself in these different conditions and places in life. And one of the things that didn't work for me about Cassia is the other scenes where we don't see her using any critical thought at all. This is like the first time she's like, oh, I'm going to use my critical skills that I've learned from being in Rome and being a woman who now has to marry this dude, Yeah. And it's like, but you've known it all the whole time. So we're going to strip that away from her character in order to make her seem like a teenager who doesn't understand the game. It's very odd choice.
But immediately prior to this, there's a line that like really like stuck in my craw where the reveal is like, we're recreating the his massacre of the Celtic horse tribes. And then she's like, this isn't battle, this is execution. And then he says something and then he goes, no, this is politics. And I'm like, this is like, what is politics about this? Like, this is just, I don't know.
I think that's a really great point, Colin. And my presentation at Canvas would say that that is a good interpretation from the reception side of things. Because what I really look at in this history of this scene, of the Pollichi Verso, is that scene has changed in our film, but we've also seen the power dynamics between athletes, spectators, and political leaders change within the last 25 years. And I think it's very, like, we could not look at our own sports today and say it's not political. Like, going forward, it's going to be hella political.
kind of why. Well, yeah, this movie is 2 years prior to Colin Kaepernick, right? Which is like I wonder.
Which is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, to that point, like had this movie been made in 2017 versus 2014, at least in the United States, very different political landscape.
Yeah.
You know, how a scene like that would play out. And I mentioned because like Gladiator 2, I think, is like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Successfully, unsuccessfully.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we can jury's out, but like it's thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and I heard this quote literally today that politics is downstream of culture. And I think a lot of these gladiatorial film and television was anticipating what was going to happen in the United States, in the world that consumes it. Like, it's kind of eerie. Like, I remember when we were talking about Gladiator 2, I don't think the election had happened yet. Is that the case? It was close.
When did Gladiator 2 come out?
But I remember being like really mad at the message, and yet like it ended up more or less representing our reality.
Gladiator 2 would have come out like days. It came out November 22nd. So like weeks.
So I saw it right before the election. And I'm just like, this message is wrong. That like it's the military and the political leaders that are going to like that the people of Rome will have nothing to do with the dream of Rome and remaking it or whatever.
Again, well, so to like take a couple steps back, there's an idea this movie introduces that is kind of an odd through line, that there is like some kind of tension between Pompeii and Rome itself. That like Pompeii as some, I guess, like a sort of colonized place by Rome, that like they have like some sort of animosity that, you know, and like to the extent that like Kit Harington is like, I hate the Romans because they killed my family. And Emily Browning's like, I hate the Romans too because I'm Pompeian.
Is it just trying to like mitigate that ickiness between you are a terrible, like the Romans are icky and they killed my family, and maybe I can't fall in love and kiss you at the end of this movie? Is that what it's trying to like?
It's trying really hard not to be a colonizer colonized the romance, right? They really don't want to deal with the politics of that. Yeah. Because, you know, they go to a lot of pains to make them very, very white and very, very British, which in the Mediterranean in 2014, when they made this movie, that choice is a choice. But, you know, they really don't want to deal with the implications of that romance. And rather than deal with like, you know, maybe the role, and this would be very woke, the role of a woman in a family as kind of already being colonized and without a lot of rights because of the laws of that time, you could have made a point about their power levels. Obviously, she's still a colonizer and he's still colonized, and, you know, that is still what the romance is. But they choose not to do that. And so they're very much, it's that chastity, it's that purity, like, ooh, maybe I have never kissed a girl before, you know, like maybe this is my first kiss, you know, like they're doing so many weird things that I'm just like, you don't want to have a hard conversation. And I get that. This is a summer popcorn blockbuster movie. So either be all one thing or be the other.
It was one of those things that I wasn't sure was intentional in trying to be accurate, because Elijah, remind me if this is correct, but like Glenn, who like we learned Roman archaeology from, Glenn always made a point of saying, it's like Pompeii is not the city you go to look at for like Roman stuff. You go to Ostia Antica, because it has a different history. It has a different cultural influence. And yes, by this point in time, it's definitely been under the power of Rome for a long time. But it's not as if like different ethnic groups don't carry a grudge for a long time when there's a grudge to be had.
Sure. But so like, Pompeii itself began as a Greek settlement, we think, and was built up by Samnites and maybe Oskins. It has a couple different, you know, expansions to it, including a Roman expansion, because I think it was after the Social War, right? That because it originally like rebelled.
That would have been in like 90 BC.
Sounds kind of weird to say.
200 years or before
and so
this.
it's like almost 200 years. It has been very much under Roman control. But not just control, like Romans live there, Romans travel there, Romans trade there. So it has really become, much like the rest of the peninsula, very, very Roman. And Pompeii does have, I think it has some of our few like Oscan inscriptions or graffiti that we can find there. So we do have some evidence from these older places that, maybe people still had some sort of cultural memory of these other groups that maybe did have kind of a bone to pick with the Romans, but a lot about the social war was like wanting to be included. A lot of times it was about asking for more rights, asking for more participation with the Romans. So that doesn't totally
compared to
mix
Kit Harington
for me.
is from Britain. I mean, basically, I think because the actor is British and also because audiences in the Anglophone world, you know, we joke about like in media about Rome, there's basically only 4 places: Rome, Britannia, Egypt, and Judea. And like, if you're going to set a thing in the Roman world, it's going to be in one of those 4 locations. And also it is just, again, copying that Russell Crowe is the Spaniard, that he's like, he's Roman, but he's not Roman, and that whole thing. But with Kit Harington's case, like his made up tribe would have been conquered, like maybe not in his own lifetime, but like in the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
Like 2 decades, give or take, he would have come under Roman control, which is a very, you know, Britain as a colonial sort of holding of Rome versus Pompeii are kind of night and day situations.
Different.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's like that is a very nuanced distinction to try and make in a film where people have a very general knowledge of Rome, Pompeii is unequivocally Roman in most people's minds.
I think we are asking too much. I think from a film.
For sure. So another character I wanted to talk about, again, as like looking at this film as an artifact of gladiatorial film and television in the last 25 years, was the character of Atticus, which is like almost a carbon copy of Juba.
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Almost. It is exactly. I feel like it's insulting to everybody.
And you see him again. You see that character again. That same very similar character, not a carbon copy in Oenomaus and in Spartacus. Like there's always that character.
Yep. It only changed recently in Those About to Die, where the actual protagonist gladiator is the black gladiator from Africa, which is interesting and like I think a reflection of. Or it's a reaction to Colin Kaepernick and the national anthem. Yeah.
And also I think just general audiences. I mean, like you could argue that, you know, in a lot of MCU movies, there's always like a sort of like black best friend character and things like that. You get like Rhodey and Sam and like, like how many decades of the black character can only be the best friend status.
Right. Well, and I think it becomes more pronounced in reaction as well to Obama and his presidency. So looking at Gladiator, the first movie, Peter Rose wrote a chapter called The Politics of Gladiator. And this is what he had to say about Juba. And I think it helps us look at why did they just keep it exactly the same for Atticus in this case. So the relationship in Gladiator between Maximus and the Nubian Juba is clearly inspired by Spartacus. We first see him as a kind of loving nurse to wounded and enslaved Maximus, and he doesn't understand Maximus's defiance of the master. We see that also with Atticus, who's like, I'm going to follow the rules because Roman law says I get my freedom if I just kill you. In the arena, Juba becomes Maximus's subordinate and obedient partner in that fight to the death. And then finally, he's the pious friend who buries Maximus's family idols after his death. And this is the quote from Peter Rose that I thought was just kind of chilling to think about. Here again, we have a specifically Republican image of nostalgia for a lost golden age of race relations in which blacks do not question whites and obey their white superiors. And that being reiterated in 2014, again, I feel like was a sign, an indication of like some of the growing animosity, the backlash that came from our first black president in a lot of ways. So.
Absolutely. And think about what a different movie this would have been if Kit Harington's character was the best friend who questioned nothing. And, you know, Atticus was our protagonist. Think about what you would have been saying in that romance element and everything else. It just would have been a more interesting film that questioned a lot more about what we do and don't accept in our society and how that works.
This is slightly separate, but somewhat related, where a thing that I noted and sort of bugs me is a thing I don't like sometimes in stories is when you have a character that everybody in the story treats like the main character.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, like it's easy to kind of, you know, not to like take low blows, but I feel like it's an easy snipe you can make about a lot of like YA fantasy and romantasy, where like everybody just like treats the YA protagonist like they're the specialist person in the world because they're the center of the narrative. And like Kit Harington to me has like in this movie has a very bad case of like main character energy, where everybody everybody's like has read the script and knows that he's the main character and acts accordingly. So it's like Atticus is like, I'm going to play second fiddle to you because I know you're the main character. And Kiefer Sutherland is like, I must destroy this random slave from Britannia because I know he's the main character. And Emily Browning's like, I'm going to fall in love with this guy who I've known for exactly 20 minutes because he is the main character.
Yeah. And again, it's really interesting that we've only seen a change and move away from the Enemeus, the Juba, more recently. I forget the character's name in Those About to Die, but then we also have Macrinus in Gladiator 2, which just puts him in a completely the black man in a completely different role that's problematic in its own way. I don't know. Again, that's why this film was interesting.
Is the name?
Okay, what is it?
No, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong character.
Kwame. Yes,
I thought it was
yes.
Kwame.
Mm-hmm.
Kwame, which I don't know if we're going to get a season 2. I don't think Roland Emmerich hasn't officially. Okay. Well, I'm really interested to see where that line goes because he was forced to kill his best friend who was a white man and then forced to watch a non-enslaved Roman citizen be murdered. Unhinged.
It doesn't make any sense.
No one knows how to do Gladiator, like a good Gladiator line.
Even to take a step back, like I said, the strongest thing this movie has going for it is the lack of original ideas. And like, I'm being facetious, but like the fact that this movie,
you're not wrong though, right? Like, it is a strength, weirdly.
It's so devoid of like any original ideas in any capacity that it is rehashing plot points and characters and character arcs and character relations from 10, 15 years prior but like, it's just repeating stuff like that is.
It's interesting, right? Like it's a very interesting artifact that is showing us what people didn't care to innovate, but thought was worthwhile enough and value enough to copy and present, which isn't unlike how most of our ancient literature and media was preserved.
So true.
It tells us a lot about that time period and the period we're in now based on how we react to it too, you know? Like it's easy to step away and be like, oh, wow, that was, I see how we got here.
I guess I don't know. I wonder to a certain extent though, like how endemic, because like in 2014, nobody liked this movie. And like, I think all of the criticisms we're levying against it right now, they levied at it then. And so I don't know, this movie is like in a weird spot where it is like retrograde even in its own time. But like to the point that Christy's saying that it's like, it is in some ways like reflective of a 2014 mood. But I'm also thinking like, is it because like audiences wholesale rejected it?
That's a really good question. Like the other thing that like stood out to me was how they used the earthquake volcano to like have the entire arena collapse after the thing. And I was just thinking back to the Spartacus episode when they caught it on fire to free their buddies. And I'm like, that was more fun, frankly.
But like, yeah, like the Spartacus as like a foil is like an interesting kind of like media thing to hold it. Because like Spartacus to me is very of its time. And like you can kind of watch the Star Spartacus and be like, this is where we're at. Oh yeah, sorry. I
was just gonna say, Tom, like to clarify, because a lot of this is inspired from Spartacus the movie versus Spartacus the TV series.
Yeah, and Spartacus the movie is a really interesting artifact of its time, and what it's trying to portray, and how the entire thing works, and what the sort of, that's another thing where somehow he lives his entire life in the mines and is a virgin at like what looks like approximately 45, and you're like, what? He had like a 1 year life. Okay, moving on. But
when you got a chin like Kirk Douglas, you can overcome any odds. But yeah, like I mean, yeah, the 1960 Spartacus is like, in some ways, this isn't innovating on that. Like you said, like Atticus is a recreation of Juba from Gladiator, who is a recreation of Is his name also Juba in Spartacus?
Isn't it Oenomaus? Because they based it off the historical record.
Movie.
Is it?
I don't know, because the 60s movie was based off of a book that...
in the show, his name's Oenomaus, but in the movie, Draba is the name of the character in the Spartacus movie.
Which is Juba. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like we have these copies of copies of copies, but that first copy, you go back like Spartacus 1960. One of the things I love about that is like it is, I think, the sole like leftist golden age sword and sandal, which is what I like about it. Right? It is like very much like populist, I guess, communist, socialist, in a way that cuts against like Quo Vadis and Ben-Hur, which are these very like kind of like red-blooded Christian American movies.
Yep.
It's queer too. Like they famously cut out a line and then like reinserted it later.
Snails and oysters or whatever it is. But like, like that movie was, I think, ahead of its time in 1960. And like, you know, when you transpose that into 2014, it becomes both creatively and like ideologically retrograde.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anyways, which is why this movie is great.
It's not so great.
Well, it's like, because it's a copy of a copy of a copy, right? We're like playing so much telephone. It's like we don't even know like why we are doing some of the things we're doing. Like, why is it interesting to have main characters who are enslaved? Because their lives, you know, were really horrific and we don't often hear about them from other historical spaces, and they were still people and led interesting lives and are worthy of our attention. As also women, right? We don't see a lot of information or have a lot of material about the lives of everyday women in the ancient world. And having movies like this are a way to look at those lives and those characters and tell their stories in certain ways. And I think I remember Spartacus, the 60s movie, it was one of the only like older sword and sandal ones that had visions of like dead bodies or like, you know, women and children who had been slaughtered, or, you know, it was like these everyday people who were hurting and destroyed by the actions of the Romans. And I think that doesn't get to Pompeii. Like, we're not getting the why
it's
is
like
this
you're converting,
interesting?
you're like you have
why
like an HDMI
cool?
adapter that goes to a VGA cable that goes to like a 3-color thing, and then so like what starts out in, or vice versa, right? It's like you're like copying a VHS over to a DVD over to a Blu-ray, and then you're like trying to watch it, and you're like, why is it so grainy? But the point I was going to make earlier that I totally forgot about because of the grappa. Editor cut that out. But was that like
Don't cut it out.
Don't cut it out.
Fundamental decision why there had to be gladiators at all in this movie. And it felt like, well, it's a movie about Rome, so there has to be gladiators. Okay, so there has to be gladiators. So every single choice made in writing and directing this movie is because of like the meta cinema landscape of like, okay, it's a Roman movie, ergo gladiators, ergo all of these different plot points. Okay, it's a disaster movie, ergo love story, ergo class difference, ergo, and then you just kick that out, and then when you follow this sort of like pattern of thought, you end up with all these plot points that you need to hit, and then you end up with these confusing scenes. Like, we haven't even as we're going through the plot, we're now in 20 minutes and we haven't gotten past the horse scene, which is like in the first 20 minutes. But sorry, this is mostly my fault.
No. And this brings me to like Gladiator 2, and like one of my major frustrations with that movie was like, it was just so self-referential to itself. And for Ridley Scott being such an iconic director, it felt like he had just completely ignored what progress had been made about depictions of Rome, mostly TV in that time period, like HBO's Rome, Stars of Spartacus, even Those About to Die, and things like that. He just completely ignored it.
The one about Livia, what's it called?
Yes, Domina,
which again is a really interesting look at the roles of women and who they're forced to marry and where their power lay in that society. Yeah. And like,
I'm
only talking about season one. It was
so good.
Season 2, fun.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yes.
But, and I think like that's the thing too. Like there's been so much research that has been done by both male and female historians, but a lot of female historians about the role of women and what power would have looked like for women in different social classes and freedom. And so it's, again, my frustration with Cassie. It's like, if like Livia knew, I have to marry this person. Otherwise, my dad, who I do actually care about in this instance, I mean, politically and like socially, he could have sold her into slavery if she didn't do what he wanted. But anyway, because that's also a thing. Gambling gets slavery. It's horrible.
But
like
only up to 3 times.
Only up to 3 times, but
You can buy and sell your children in and out of slavery, but only up to 3 times.
And your husband can do the same. It's fine. It's fine. Women and children, no autonomy. Anyway, but that's what frustrated me. It's like you have these moments where you're showing us what that power looked like, and you've had people like in the Stars of Spartacus, or even in like Rome, where you have these women who are conniving to get their social power, and how they work through men and how they work behind the scenes. So it just felt flat and disappointing not to see that.
Yeah.
I watched an interview with Emily Browning. There was all these interviews that they clearly just like sat each cast member down and were like, talk to us about the movie. And, and like most of the interview clips you'll find about Kit Harington was basically like, I really wanted to like get super buff for a film and like see that I could do it. And so like most of the trivia and fun facts about him are like, basically like I worked out a ton to like get super ripped for this film. But there's like a 2-minute interview with Emily Browning where she says, like, when I first got the script, I was kind of like, because there's like not much for female characters to do, and I'm not really like into that or whatever. And then she says like, but then I read on in like the first scene, and she's kind of like, she's clever and combative and innovative or whatever. And she's talking about like, she's basically saying, but not without saying, she's like, I saw a strong female character in this role, which is, I mean, I know she's already committed to the project by the time she's doing this interview. So she's, you got to sell the car, but like, it's ironic that like, that's what drew her to the character according to her.
It had its moments, and who's to say like what got cut as well?
I was going to say, we don't know what got cut. We don't know, because I think this movie was one of those movies that was really delayed for many reasons. And the end product probably changed quite a bit from what was originally there based on,
And you know what? At the end of the day, still better than Gladiator 2 that shot its 2 and only 2 female characters through the heart.
With Era.
I mean, how do you, again, this is my complaint with Gladiator 1 and a very similar one about Gladiator 2. How do you have Commodus, one of the emperors who is so outrageous, and we know about half the stuff he did, and even if like 2/3 of that was a smear campaign, at least 1/3 was right, okay? Like that's my feeling on it. Why would you not take it to the craziest places that are historically there? Because he was wild. Why would you just be like, no, I'm gonna do it this way? I'm like, he was killed by the man who rubbed him in the bath and his mistress, right? Like that's how he goes out. I'm sorry.
But I mean,
and he refused to shave. Like he would have this big beard. He would only light his hair on fire in order to, when it got too long. Like
he cosplays as Hercules in the arena.
He renames everything Commodus or some version of his name. Like
he chopped off an ostrich's head and held it up to the Senate and went like, "This is you."
He had a weird shaped penis, according to one of the sources. We have an episode on it. I think it's on our Patreon. It's called like Jackasses of the Arena. And he's obviously one of them. And it was all about Commodus and like all the cattiest facts. I forget who my source was, because it was someone who was like literally forced to sit in the arena while like he would have like family members executed and be like, are you cool with this? And you just have to be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm not going to cry at all.
BT dub, weird dick.
I know it's like, I love that that's just the go-to critique, because we were talking about the newest South Park episode about and how that is still the go-to.
It's since ancient times, right? Like, look, we've built our democracy on the shifting sands of ancient Rome, where it was democracy for some, not all. So is it any surprise that the same critique is the one we have now?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So we're going long, but I mean, I propose we ride this train. But I was going to suggest is like, are we entering the point where we just rewrite the film?
Yes, and we rewrite it as 24.
Yes.
Like it literally is one day. We like strip out the romance elements, and it's just could they survive and how it would look.
I was going to also propose, because we've got Jared Harris here, who I just want to throw out, like Carrie-Anne Moss and Jared Harris. This film is beneath them. Carrie-Anne Moss gets nothing to do.
So
she has 4 lines, and one of them is like, no, and the other is like, kill him.
Can we also rewrite Kit Harington's character Milo as just a total himbo? Like he does nothing upstairs. Well, he's a wonderful dude, very kind.
1 year after this, Kit Harington is going to deliver my favorite performance he's ever done, which is the HBO mock-drama 7 Days in Hell, where he is playing a a himbo tennis player who is like the bit with him is that somebody taught him the word indubitably, and combined with his English accent, he just says that whenever he doesn't know what to say because it sounds smart, and so he just always goes like, indubitably.
I just think he's an absolute himbo golden retriever who's just like imprinted on this girl, and it's just like, I'm just going to be here and take care of you. It's fine. I'm not going to do anything wrong ever.
Yes, I agree. Jon Snow knows nothing. And I think Kit Harington, for better or worse, Kit Harington kind of has resting dumb face. But
yes.
It's a very pretty resting dumb face. Like, listen, I wouldn't take it out of my bed for eating crackers. I might if he was 5'3", though.
Yeah. Because Jared Harris is here, legend of stage and screen. But we could do it like Chernobyl style, where it's like,
oh, yes.
What happened? All the different elements of like the different characters that are involved. You have the top level, like what's going on in Titus's court when they're like, the guy shows up, it's like Pompeii is destroyed, and Titus is like, you have the people on the street level. You have various sort of aspects of Roman culture like coming in and out. You have, like Eli said, the framing device built in where we have all of these molds of real life people who died at Pompeii in various situations and circumstances. It's all laid out right there, right? And so and you can do it like the different sort of like strata of society and how they relate to Pompeii, right? Before the disaster, during the disaster, after the disaster. Anyways.
Yeah.
And you have that refugee crisis where you could literally become a new person. Like there's an opportunity if you don't know who lives and dies. Sorry.
Especially for like you said, for gladiators, because this is after multiple gladiator revolts and they don't really get another chance to rebel after Spartacus. So,
I mean, I don't know. There's something there, but like there have been other incidents, but like maybe about a decade, I think it was during Nero, there was a really, really bad earthquake in this area that like Pompeii was still being rebuilt when the volcano erupted. So it's like one of the things, I mean, Titus has a really short reign. He's in a weird, interesting place. His dad was a very, I guess, successful emperor, but an emperor who took it by force. He has an insane brother waiting in the wings. And Titus only has like a 2 or 3 year reign. So like there's an interesting thing of like, how do you respond to a crisis like this as emperor? You have the other elements of like, what is it like to be a gladiator in Pompeii in 79 AD? What is it like to be a merchant, enslaved, worker? Anthology kind of like, but different, like all these different people.
Yeah. And I think there's that opportunity for like a White Lotus style. Like we know like the casts of people, we know some people die, but we can't match up like who is a cast, like who dies, who ends up in plaster, like who is going to survive to the end. That would be so much more interesting and exciting and narrative. Like I would actually care about the characters.
No, I think you're pitching an HBO series. And I think the reason Chernobyl is one of my favorite like series that has ever made. Like it's deeply depressing. Like, it's not favoritism, like, yay, comfort watch. It's just, I think it's so brilliant. And the reason why is it followed this work that was done by, I believe she was a Ukrainian. I might be getting it wrong. Or Belarus. She was from somewhere in that area. And I think she won like all these prizes. She wrote this book called Chernobyl Prayer, which has a different title in America. I can't remember what it is, but essentially what she did was she followed all those different people you see. Some of them were composite characters, and she got their stories while they were still alive because she wanted to preserve that history. And I think what historians and archaeologists have done is they have followed these stories. So now we could do something like that, we don't know what happened here, but we know this, and like that framing, like, and even how turbulent that time is. And I think it's ready.
We compare like Titanic, where you have like, or Chernobyl, where you have an abundance of historical like document. I mean, you have people still living maybe to work with. Pompeii is like the one thing from antiquity where we can even approach that kind of thing, where it's like, we actually do know a weirdly big amount of stuff about what's going on here.
Yeah. Because it is a site that has Herculaneum is a Herculaneum House of Papyri. So it's like, we have what works were actually still collected. We have the first-hand account of Pliny. We have the graffiti. We have the artwork. We have the architecture. We have facial expressions of people as they died.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Pliny should be one of the characters. Like
for sure.
Both Pliny should be one of the characters.
Yes. He should be on the beach, right? He should be on the beach and he should die. That.
This was one thing I wanted to reiterate about Pompeii as a site matters to archaeologists, to volcanologists, to like historians, everyone. Is
to just nerds on the internet.
Fanfic writers.
And you guys discussed this really well in your discussion with Christy Shermer?
Doubt that we discussed it well, but thank you.
Yes.
Christy Schramper.
About like, when we say a snapshot in time, we're talking about a snapshot of a disaster scenario. And people did evacuate, people did leave, but like it was very quick. And so a lot of archaeological sites that we may get to dig on just kind of were forsaken slowly, and people took their stuff with them. When you get to dig a site where no one has time to grab their stuff, nor are they able to go back and find their stuff, like it is buried. Like they can't even find the city afterwards. That is such a treasure trove of information, because all of the literature, historical accounts, only talk about a small amount of people. It's the material culture left behind that tells us these bigger stories. So like for my dissertation, like one of my favorite things I got to talk about was this chest that was discovered that had medical tools. And on one of the medical tools was the name Sparata. And I was able to, Rhea Berg does an amazing article work on this, of like, that is a slave woman's name. And it is evidence that slave women could have this impressive skill set, and that they could have their name on objects of significant importance, which is so cool. And we don't find most of the time because people took that stuff with them when they could.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, just from my nerdy volcanic knowledge that annoys me in all of these things that I've seen, is like, they don't ever talk about what the length of this eruption was really long. It was like a 14-hour eruption, and it didn't just like pop off and like everything was covered in 20 minutes. That's not how it happened. And so why people got away is because they made really smart choices at the beginning. But what you don't see in this movie, and in a lot of movies about sort of volcanoes and particularly this eruption, is the physical toll these eruptions take on people, because you have the hazards of like the falling like projectiles from the volcanic eruption. You also have the pumice. And one of the things that in particular this eruption did was, because of the length of time, it sucked all the moisture out of the air. So it was like you could not breathe. You could not, like, your body's mostly water. You were really dehydrating, and all the water was contaminated. You couldn't drink any of it. And I just think like those things to me are so much more fascinating in the lead up to this epic disaster than a chariot race between Kiefer and Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Like the real 100%.
You mentioning drinking water, just like, I just wanted to shout out, I've poor Ariadne, Emily Browning's like best friend, who like, I just like felt so bad, where I wrote like when she died, she like breasted boobily as she died. Cause like in her last dying shot, like all you see is like basically her cleavage. And I was like, this character.
And that moment was like right before that was just like almost the most accurate representation about how a lot of people would have died had they remained in Pompeii. Was like the ashfall was so heavy that roofs collapsed. So having all you needed was the roof to collapse. You didn't need it to fall into the seaside.
And also the air would have been like 1 billion degrees and there's like poison gas everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Eventually,
But back to the drawing board. So like, right, we can't do an HBO 5-part docudrama a la Chernobyl, which maybe we should, but that
all Roman media should just be television series at this point. Like I have not seen a good Roman film in a while.
But I like a
HBO
movie.
Rome.
I like a
first
good
season
movie.
of Domina. I would argue even Those About to Die took some big swings and I enjoyed.
I hear you. But I still like a disaster movie. And
That's
I feel
fine.
like I want to center.
we're in the classics critics conundrum,
eruption.
which is like you got to critique the work in front of you, not the work you wish it had been. So that being said, we have a movie. We have this movie. We have the script in front of us. The changes, right? I think like there's only a couple points we need to make, just a couple of shifts, 10 degrees here, 10 degrees there. How would we improve the script?
So I think Emily Browning should be married to Kiefer Sutherland in the beginning. And I think he should be coming back from some overseas position that she, for some reason, didn't
And she
go
could
with
be
him
going
on.
to her parents' home specifically to help ask for their support for a divorce from him.
Great. Yes. Love all that.
Yeah, love it.
Get rid of Kit Harington. I'm sorry.
I guess the meet cute is still fine. I feel like we almost don't even need to like see baby Kit Harington.
Do we need Milo?
No.
Why is his name Milo? Never mind.
That's not even culturally, like, I can't.
Atlantis, that's why I can call it.
I feel like Kit Harington's character is once again a himbo enslaved person who has pretty much spent his whole life as, you know, one of Cassia's family servants. He's there as sort of a bodyguard. He does not need, he does not need a gladiatorial story because he's not the main character. He's just supporting her. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Let's scrap all of the Britain shit and all the like.
You can still keep
backstory.
Atticus as like your lead gladiator. He's got his own story.
Yeah, because it seemed like her dad was paying for those games, so he could be renting Atticus.
Yeah. He could also be the patron of Atticus. He's been like paying for him to have a great life. So they've got a really interesting relationship.
And like Pompeii, if we think about Pompeii is like almost like minor leagues to Rome or something, like Atticus is like just on the cusp of like, he's just good enough that like we could go big time with him.
Exactly.
Right? We could go to, we're thinking about, we're going to Rome. Atticus is our, you know, star player.
So Cassia's father has a little Batiatus going on here. Is that what we're saying?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Remember, you've had that bad earthquake. So a lot of people doing different things would have had to pivot in order to like make their fortunes back up and rebuild their villas. And even after that earthquake, people in that area were so like blasé about earthquakes because they're like, the earth always shakes here. It's like, no, that's a volcanic warning. But sure, the earth always shakes here, you know?
Yeah.
Bringing it back to my personal experience growing up in Washington, there was a big earthquake in 2006 that I distinctly remember because I was in 6th grade. That sounds right. No, not 2006. It was earlier than that. If I was in 6th grade.
You were 16 in 6th grade?
No. I was in 6th grade. So you all do the math. It's the famous earthquake in Washington. It did some damage in Seattle.
It would have been like 2001, something like that.
Yes.
Earthquakes, Washington State.
You do that. All right. But I know I was in 6th grade and like, I remember feeling it and be like, is that a semi-truck? And I'm like, no, it's an earthquake. Everyone get under their, I literally was the one who's like, everyone get under their desks. I know this drill.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yes. Baby Christy. I love it.
And like my dad had been in the yellow zone of Mount St. Helens in 1980, a week before it erupted. Like people were just doing that. People be stupid. Well,
we say that. And like one of the things
about you're not stupid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Christy, let me know if any of these ring any bells. February 28th, 2001, Nisqually earthquake. June 10, 2001, earthquake. 5.0 near Satstop, Washington. 2001 earthquake swarm in Spokane.
Spokane,
excuse me. It's not Spokane.
It's not Spokane. It's Spokane.
I know. I've always said it.
I'm going to say February because June, I guess I would have still been
There was
in
a deep 6.8 centered in Nisqually near Tacoma.
Nisqually. Yes, that was it. The Nisqually one.
Nisqually near Tacoma over western Washington from Oregon to British Columbia, Montana. $2 to $4 billion in damage, 400 injuries.
Yep.
Yeah, 2001, late February 2001, Nisqually.
Okay, that was it. Yep.
So
I love people trying to pronounce Washington names. It's great.
So one of the things also about like earthquake or volcanoes and stuff and why people live so close to them is like as much damage as they do, a lot of them aren't active for a long time. And like agriculturally, they have really good soil.
Yeah.
So, like, people are like, we live here because it has the best of everything.
We grow hops and vineyards.
Exactly.
It's great.
When you play Civ 6, you get bonuses for building on the sites of like earthquake eruptions and floods and droughts and things like that. And
it's great.
I deliberately found cities next to active volcanoes because I can like get extra rewards. Like, yes, people die every couple of, decades and centuries.
Yeah,
but,
as long as they're aware of the risks, But
like the net economic gains.
It's all about that money at the end of the day.
That's how I play Civ 6. Okay, so the changes so far, we've got Emily Browning is married to Kiefer. She's coming back from Rome. Kit is
her bodyguard.
He's her bodyguard. He's just a nice himbo bodyguard. He's been here since he was a kid. He knows
next door.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
He's enslaved boy next door.
I think there's no romance between him and her. I think the romance is between Kit and Atticus, honestly.
Yes. 100%.
Oh, I love that. Great change.
Atticus is a rising gladiator star. Where do we go from here?
Do we need much else?
Okay, so then everybody has like some stake either monetarily in Atticus doing well or because Kit Harington is in love with him, romantically
and
invested.
What's her name? Cassia's parents are torn between helping her divorce Corvus and or exploit the marriage in order to get their boy Atticus to Rome.
Exactly.
All right.
And also, Cassia's parents, the mother in particular, is like, you could have so much power here. This is how you work a man like this. This is how you do. This is how you succeed in this world. So, like, we have a lot of commentary there, about what
she should be the Attia of the Julia.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Or the Lucretia, of Batiatus and Ludus.
You could have a bit of like, of contrast where like the mother is like, hey, I married your father and he's okay. But like, man, I could have wished that if I were you, I would have loved to like be a political player in Rome. So I'm going to project all of these things onto you, my daughter.
Exactly. Also, you can take lovers, just give them a couple of heirs, and then you can enjoy yourself. Like, you don't need to, be constrained by this dude. Just be discreet.
Do we pull from Domina and have more just because?
I mean, I don't know if you can, because if you want to keep this like a summer disaster movie blockbuster, I think it has to be implied, that none of these people are virgins, but they're not Domina Spartacus style all the time.
And we only get one F-bomb.
Yeah.
Only one F-bomb in a disaster film.
Yeah.
Feels counterintuitive. There'd be a lot of going out of my mouth.
There are no F-bombs in this movie, right?
I know. That seems highly unrealistic. There is that line that I remember you guys talked about in the last episode that was like Juno's tits or something like that.
Yeah. It's Jared Harris, right? He's like, Juno's tits. Is this all your luggage?
So I guess maybe more of that.
Leo, what do you think? Get in on this. We're kind of spitballing here.
It's like, I think replace the horses with cats.
Absolutely. And make sure that like at the end, before Cassia leaves the city, she unleashes all the dogs. She just missed that one, which was probably Kiefer's hidden one.
But that dog was
it was a bad dog.
No. You pull from Legally Blonde and say, I'm taking the fucking dog.
Exactly.
So I guess this is who survives? Like if we're thinking about Titanic, right? We're like, does Cassia survive?
Yes.
Okay. I like this. So I think then Atticus and Kit Harington should both survive and Cassia maybe dies and they get to go live their lovely little queer himbo life together and they have a farm.
I feel like they can still be the blockbuster summer heroes we need who save the girl, but then go do that.
Yeah, I think Cassia goes in a different place.
Yeah.
And like
maybe with her mom.
No, I think the mother and father
people need to die. I'm sorry, but like
That's fair.
this is me, the studio coming in, and be like, we got to
Okay.
Well, Kiefer obviously dies.
Kiefer dies. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that Cassia's mother lives and Jared Harris also dies. And Cassia's mother is now a very wealthy, widowed woman. I think Cassia, everyone thinks she dies. The only people who know that she didn't die are Milo and Atticus. I'm very torn if Milo needs to live or not.
Oh, beautiful.
Like, he might also be another casualty. But I do love the idea of him and Atticus having a happy ending.
We're flying very close to the like Titanic where like Jack needs to die for Rose to...
Yeah.
I mean, which we could just do. I mean, there's not, you know...
Well, I also like that we give a happy ending to the queer couple, right? Like, we don't get to see that much. So let's keep them alive.
I mean, you can have them die because everyone dies in the historical film, but they die of old age.
Yeah.
That's when we know that actually we think they die. We only see Cassia go and survive, but then we don't ever see like what actually becomes of her. Instead, we flash forward to old Milo and Atticus.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a subplot involving... I think in like the Roman world, legal status is like tricky to prove where you don't have like documentation necessarily. And so like, it's kind of your word against whoever else's word that you are, say, free versus not free.
Mm-hmm.
And so there can and should be a subplot involving like manumission papers that are like in the villa, right? Where like Milo and Atticus, like, Cassia's dad, Jared Harris, like he has like, the stamp, the signet ring, the papers, right? That like you need to manumit. So like we can't leave Pompeii because we'll just be enslaved people on the run.
Yeah.
Or like it'll be our, you know, like they could, anyone could just like pick us up. But like what we need are like, we need like legal documentation to prove that we are free. And that is in the villa. So we have to go, even though this is a like 14, 18 hour disaster, we need to go in and I'm going to pitch this straight at Elijah because what we're actually doing is a heist.
Okay.
Yes. Ocean's 11 Pompeii style.
We have and I can't believe I'm going to cite my least favorite filmmaker, but Zack Snyder, Army of the Dead, where like it is a bank heist in the zombie apocalypse where it's like, we need to go in to the dangerous zone.
Love it.
We have a ticking clock, right? We have like the volcano is erupting. We need to get to the villa. We need to get in. We need to get the manumission papers. We need to get out and get clear of the volcano.
I'm so on board with this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I do want like, I don't know, not C plot, maybe D plot to have plenty like on the beaches. He can be our narrator. Like we cut to, but like we cut to some of the
Pliny is our
evacuation every now and then.
There you go.
But Pliny doesn't get away. They would die.
Yes.
Pliny the Younger.
But he wasn't there. He was across the bay.
Pliny wasn't. Yeah, the Younger wasn't there.
He was across. He was at Mycenum. He wasn't there.
Could Pliny the Elder help?
Yes.
With the getaway and then die?
He doesn't get away, but
yes, because if so, one of the things Pliny the Elder did was, I believe they like stopped for the night. And if they had gone a little bit further, I don't remember if it was toward Naples.
He also doesn't he take a bath and like have a leisurely lunch or something?
And we talked about it in our episode. And part of the reason he might have done that, and it might have seemed odd, is when you have a massive panic and you're looking to someone to be the leader, if they remain calm, you remain calm. So if you know there's nothing you can do, rather than have everyone panic, it's like, right, we're going to have, and to be fair,
call up the band and play some music. Yep.
And to be fair, he had a breathing condition as well. If you were covered in that like soot, you have to get that off your body.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Pliny the Elder was like, he was not a spring chicken. He was
and he was not in the best of health either.
He was old.
Yeah. So we have Pliny the Younger liaisons with Kit Harington and Atticus. That's like, hey, we can get out this way. They go for the rendezvous point, which is Pliny the Elder. Pliny the Elder dies. This is our second act, like low point. And then they're like, shit, our getaway boat is no longer viable. We got to figure out a workaround to get out of here.
Okay. Maybe then some horses? Horses would maybe make sense.
It would depend on how much of a load they could carry, how they're breathing, if you could get them not to throw you off and run away.
I guess my one question for our plot change is, why does Cassia stay back in Pompeii for any period of time? I think she should get to escape.
What if what if this whole time she's been having an affair with Ariadne?
Also on board. Very much on board.
So like, unfortunately, Ariadne is going to still die in an epic boob death. But it's been, Kit's been covering for their affair, and like it's been a whole thing while Kiefer's been away.
Pliny the Younger is Cassia's like friend, pen pal liaison.
Yes.
From Rome, and they're like, we're both going to the Bay of Naples.
Yes.
And
he's like, if you have any problems, my uncle will help you. They're really good friends. They're now doing their summer here. Yes. Oh yeah, I'm here for it.
Yep. Okay. And then the last thing is like, why is Ariadne forced to stay behind? I would say that slaves/servants were required to stay behind to make sure no one loots the house while the wealthy people get to escape. And Cassia's not having that happen to her girl. So.
No, and unfortunately, she still gets crushed because
unfortunately, it doesn't work out. But there we go.
Okay,
so much.
This is a way better.
I had one last thought that is maybe bad news, but tying it back in, there's a very famous cast of like two people embracing in Pompeii. Is this our Kit and Atticus?
What if Cassia doesn't make it and it's Cassia and Ariadne and they're the two that we find because she can't leave?
It's a bait and switch, right?
Oh, okay.
We are shown at the beginning the casts, and we are sort of told via visual clues to expect that this is going to be Milo and Atticus.
Yeah.
But it is not. That is the sort of reveal at the end. They get out. It's somebody else.
My heart is, I'm a little teary right now.
I love it.
Yeah.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
So beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
HBO, hit us up.
I mean, now I just want to write this. To be honest with you, I'm like, let's write this. Right? We're done. This is the book.
When you talked about choose your own adventure, Pompeii, you weren't thinking of the film version, but here we are.
Honestly, it would be so beautiful. Can you imagine being like, oh, she can't move. Well, I'm not going to leave you here alone. Oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
She stays on the, there was enough room on the door.
Yeah. Ariadne breaks something, has some pre-existing condition. Cassia stays behind. Atticus and Milo get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everyone thinks that Atticus had to have died because he was no longer the gladiator on the rise.
Going off of Jen's idea, maybe this is too many ideas at this point, but Atticus, there's a huge upset. He was supposed to win this match and doesn't. And all of a sudden, his rising star has fallen.
Yeah. No,
or Atticus was given his ludus. We see that at the beginning of this. And we know that there are bodies found in like the gladiator barracks. So there's a body there. There's a ludus. It's assumed that he didn't make it out. We don't know why he didn't make it out.
There we go.
But it's somebody else.
Yeah. It's somebody else. Yeah. No, they made it. They're fine.
Yes. I agree. There should be like some artifact that like we are shown the body at the beginning with the artifact. We see the character getting the thing. And then we are like, for like the longest time, we were under the preconception that like that's going to be his body at the beginning. But no.
And we still can throw in the line for those of us about to die, we salute you. And they leave the ludus behind.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense too, because when gladiators were freed, right, they got this freedom, they might get some money with it, but they didn't know where their next like paycheck was going to come from. They now had to worry about housing themselves, feeding themselves. So there was, like we talked about with the L.A.D. Harper books, there was like an invisible connection to their previous, owner. And it's possible that now that he's been freed at the beginning, the problem is that, Jared Harris is like, I want to, how are you going to survive in this world? This is how I bring you like music producer style to the next level. Just give me all your masters and I will record them as much as I want.
Yes. We have another character who is like in the ludus, who's in the gladiator school, but is like, this guy's never getting out, right? Like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to win my
freedom. Asher, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Someone we could like maybe put a whole season of television around. Like
the most problematic character in that entire show. And don't get me started.
And undermines
whenever you want to talk about it.
And
definitely
Lucretia's
should be the
revenge.
center. Definitely should be. No, but like we have a character who's like, hey, I'm so happy, Atticus, you're getting out. Oh man, I'm going to be stuck in gladiator low leagues for the rest of my life until one day somebody kills me. And then in like the final scene, like, maybe we have a moment where through some like, I don't know, weird investiture of power, Atticus is like, take my Rudius, you are free.
Yeah, because he's got to get Milo's papers of freedom and he already has his papers of manumission. So now they have to go back for Milo's. And even if Jared Harris isn't going to like actually sign it and whatever, the seal is there. So Cassia's like, I got you, because I'm also going to free Ariadne, and we're going to have an incredible poetry colony just up in sort of like northern Italy. It's going to be amazing.
And my final edit, a 10-minute intermission in the middle.
Oh yeah, we're going to need that.
I'm going to pull a John Peters where there should be a giant spider in the third act.
Could it be a mechanical spider?
Yeah, I'm thinking, Superman needs to fight a giant spider in the third act.
Because we don't have enough going on.
Jesus Christ.
Listeners, just look up an interview with...
Not James Gunn, I'm presuming?
No. Kevin Smith. I'm talking about an interview with writing a Superman movie with the producer, John Peters.
The wine has gotten to me because I have no idea where that came from. I went straight to the Chamber of Secrets spiders scenario, which isn't helpful.
Oh, I went to the Mechanical Spider and Wild Wild West.
Wild Wild West. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere near those books by that author. But Wild Wild West, when that happened, I was like, why do we have a steampunk spider? Why?
I wasn't trying to go there. It's just ingrained into my childhood.
Truly, there was a wonderful Kevin Smith interview where he talks about like he kind of had this like moonlighted for writing a Superman script that never came to be. And he met with the producer, John Peters, and the three things that John Peters laid out for like what has to happen in the Superman movie is, number one, he can't be flying around.
That is one of the...
He leaps taller than the tallest building.
Number two, no capes. Rule number three, he has to fight a giant spider in the third act. And then he's like, so Kevin Smith is like, okay, like the capes and the no flying are tough, but tell me about the spider.
All I hear is like from Incredibles, no capes.
And then years later, Kevin Smith is talking and he's like, and so I went to a movie produced by this guy. It was called Wild Wild West. And lo and behold, giant spider shows up in the third act.
Oh dear.
So good.
Yeah. All right, you all. Do we have any more strong feelings?
Gosh.
We've had strong feelings about this film.
We have rewritten this film into something that is not only infinitely watchable, I would dare say it might be one of the best historical Roman films of all time.
I actually like low key want to like, can we like put a trademark on this? Because like,
I kind of really wanted to, because I'm like, maybe I do want to write this.
Because I'm like, there's some like kind of like good plot ideas. So like maybe I would kick out to Jen and Jenny that if they want to write something to that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm thinking that might be something I want to pitch at some point in time.
Okay, this is my last sort of brain dump thought that I had. Is the point of this movie actually a description of the inevitable fall of power and the ultimate superiority of the natural world?
Like a zombie film?
Is that actually...
Is this a zombie film? Is that what we're asking, basically?
But the zombies are lava.
Yeah.
I think assuming that this film has themes is like a big assumption.
It doesn't. Well, just that, like, it doesn't matter what we do in life, like, you know, the rich and the poor, it's all going to be obliterated by a volcano. So...
And that's the point, right? You can't hate the Romans because the act of God, in quotation marks, is the real, like, terror, as opposed to, like, the injustice in the society.
Yeah, that's what it's trying to say.
Maybe my single biggest criticism about this film is that it is, I think, unintentionally so deeply nihilistic, because it's like at the very end it's like nothing mattered. All of these whatever like personal developments, expressions of self and freedom and personhood, it is all rendered null and void by the inescapable, unavoidable tide that is pyroclastic flow.
But we know that many people did escape it.
I was going to say, I think
that some people died with dignity and some people didn't. Like, I don't know.
It's not even that. Like, I think it's this presumption we have about disasters that, in front of Mother Nature, we're all equal. It's not true.
It's not
true. Like, one of the big things about Hurricane Katrina and like why so many people didn't evacuate, like one thing they look at is it happened at the end of the month, which is if you are lower income and you only get paid monthly or you're waiting for a government check, you get at the first of the month. So people literally did not have the income to flee.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of, when we think about the Bronze Age collapse, even though like Mycenaean palaces and everything were destroyed, the people with the resources most likely to leave and become sea peoples and go invade somewhere else are the elites, the warrior trained class, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
and the people who were able to survive who weren't the sea peoples would have been people who fled to like mountain places like Carfi, where they were protected on all sides and could see the sea peoples and had a real strong backing in like agriculture, I think, we are not all the same, when it comes to natural disasters. I mean, even just COVID, you can see how that worked for different people.
Absolutely.
And, going back
in Titanic, to bring it back up, like the whole
women and children first, except for the really rich dude who just bribed his way in.
The Onion article, third-class passengers politely asked to drown. But
I also think going back to Hurricane Katrina, when you look at how the city has been rebuilt and the people who are now able to return to that city, a lot of the people who have come back are not necessarily the people who would have lived in those areas that were decimated because they couldn't afford to rebuild. The insurance wasn't coming. Nothing was coming to help them. And so it changed populations. If you didn't stay, you might never be able to return, and you were put in a different place in the world entirely.
Yeah. And I think the 1% believes themselves to be the survivors, right? Like that's why Elon Musk is obsessed with colonizing Mars and doesn't stop to question, well, who will do the labor on Mars?
And like having infinite children or whatever.
Yeah.
Infinite children.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like they have bunkers, they have contingency plans, and they have the money to burn to have those in place.
Yep.
But no actual skills. Like I just go back to like, but if you do make it to Mars, how are you going to grow things? Like,
I know.
What are you like? What are you want to defund science? So like, who's going to help you figure out like how to do just the basics? Like,
Jen, shh. And send him to Mars.
These are genius. Don't you
and he'll figure it out.
Criticize their critical thinking skills.
I mean, he made his AI turn into Mecha Hitler. Like, I'm out. Just go.
I'm going to go on the record. I think Elon Musk and Grok, if we sent them to Mars with the two of them and a certain amount of resources, they would be just fine on their own, and they would be able to survive and create a prospering colony.
I mean, listen, all he has to do is get on board one of his own rockets and just roll those dice and see how it goes.
He'll have his AI companion, the animated goth wannabe kid that is a cross between Edward
Cullen and Christian Grey. Who's a copy of Edward Cullen to begin with?
Who's just a businessman, Edward Cullen.
It's like I'm like with like the two great literary giants, Wario and Waluigi.
This is what women want, right? This is what women want.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, you guys. I'm done. I think we're done.
I think we figured it out.
Yep.
And with that, special thanks to Jen for joining us this evening as we buried this film in ash and pyroclastic surges.
Deep.
Thank you so much for having me. This was very cathartic. I've been waiting to fully deprogram myself from this movie for like a decade now.
Well, we were so glad that you hopped in to join us. And if people want to learn more about you and your work, where should they go?
So I'm one of the co-hosts of Ancient History Fangirl. We are on Instagram and Threads and Facebook at Ancient History Fangirl. We have a website, ancienthistoryfangirl.com. We put out episodes, I think it's bi-monthly at the moment. We also have a Patreon. I am also an author who has not made a website. So probably the best place to find out more about me is my Instagram, which is at Genn McMenemy. There's a lot of M's and N's in my last name.
We'll link it.
Yeah. So the way I tell people to remember my last name is it's Enemy with MCM in front of it.
That's how I remember.
You should just introduce yourself as MC Enemy, which would
I know.
Great.
And you stop by and say hi, and yeah, I really am nerdy about volcanoes. I'll send you guys a picture. One of our listeners literally sent me a crocheted volcano. It's massive. I've got like a picture of me hugging it, and also me as a Roman woman. So I'll send you pictures of those because I feel like they are appropriate.
Did you? I'm derailing us even now in the final moments. But did you all do the science project that I did when I was a kid of the giant paper mache volcano with baking soda and
plaster of Paris, like how Pompeii did it?
I did a like big fake volcano.
So much fun.
I was also going to add, because we'll plug this now, we are planning another live stream event for International Podcast Day, and Jen and Jenny, plus a lot of other podcasters are planning to join us. So please stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we've got something fun in the works. I don't want to spoil it, but maybe related to this. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And then finally, special thanks to all you listeners. We cannot produce episodes like this without your support. That being said, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you like what you hear. You can find all our episodes at movieswedig.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more about our upcoming plans and episode releases, be sure to follow us on social media, where you can find us under the handle @movieswedig on most platforms. We'll talk to you again soon about another terrible movie, but beloved by many. So, bye.
Bye.
Question mark?